The night was quiet at the International Deep Space Observatory. Only the soft humming of machines filled the cold air. Dr. Aisha Malik sat alone in front of a large monitor, drinking her third cup of coffee. It was 3:17 a.m., and she was the kind of scientist who never ignored even the smallest anomaly. Her tired eyes moved across rows of data. Most of it was normal: background radiation, star noise, cosmic dust. But then something unusual appeared. A tiny spike. A strange rhythm. A signal that did not belong to nature. Aisha leaned forward. "That's odd," she whispered. She replayed the signal. It was faint, almost like a heartbeat hidden inside the noise. She adjusted the filters, removed the cosmic background, and then the signal became clear. Thump. Pause. Thump thump. Pause. Thump. It was too organized. Too deliberate. Too perfect to be an accident. She immediately called her colleague, Dr. Rafael Ortiz, who was on night duty as well. Rafael entered the control room rubbing his eyes. "What did you find this time?" "Another exploding star?" he joked. Aisha didn't smile. She pointed at the monitor. "Listen to this." The room became silent as the signal played again. Rafael's sleepy expression vanished. "That's structured," he said slowly. "This is not a natural wave." Aisha nodded. "It's artificial. Someone is sending this." "But who? And why?" They both stared at the audio pattern. Then Aisha zoomed out, and a hidden layer of the signal revealed itself. An encoded message compressed into a strange pattern of pulses. She decoded it once. Nothing. She decoded it again. Still nothing. But on the third attempt, the computer displayed a translation in bold letters. "The Empire summons the human species." Aisha froze. Her fingers trembled slightly. She whispered the line again just to hear it out loud. Raphael stepped back. "This must be a prank. A hack. Someone is messing with us." But Aisha shook her head. The signal came from 632 light-years away. No human could fake this. Raphael swallowed hard. "Are you sure?" Aisha looked at him with steady eyes. "Yes, this is real." Even though she tried to stay calm, she felt her heart speeding up. Humanity had dreamed of aliens for centuries, but this message didn't sound friendly or peaceful. It sounded like a command. To summon. A call. A warning. Within an hour, the observatory was full of activity. Scientists rushed in, downloading data, checking equipment, and running tests. Even the director arrived in his pajamas. "How certain are we that this is extraterrestrial?" he asked. Aisha answered confidently, 99.9%. "And you think this empire is real?" "Yes, sir. Someone out there is calling us." The director rubbed his face. "We need to inform the Global Council." By noon, every major leader in the world knew about the message. Governments sent soldiers to protect the observatory. News channels reported a cosmic anomaly, but no one revealed the real message yet. People across the planet felt a strange tension in the air, like a storm coming from space. Some were excited. Some were terrified. Some prayed. Some laughed nervously. But deep down, everyone wondered the same thing. Why is an alien empire contacting humanity? Meanwhile, Aisha continued her research. She rechecked the signal origin. It came from a sector of space known for strange voids, places where light bent in unusual ways. Ancient star maps from other civilizations, if they existed, might call it something else. Maybe even the home of this so-called empire. She enlarged the waveform again. Something new appeared. A second layer of hidden code, deeper than the first. When decoded, it produced a single sentence. "Prepare for arrival." Raphael stepped back. "Arrival? Arrival here?" Aisha nodded. "It means they are coming." He stared at her. "We can't even reach Mars properly without problems. And they're coming here with this much confidence." Aisha kept her eyes on the screen. "That means they are technologically far beyond us." Raphael exhaled slowly. "So, what do they want?" Aisha didn't answer. She didn't know. 2 days later, the world changed. A massive object appeared far beyond the orbit of Neptune. Every telescope on Earth pointed toward it. It wasn't a meteor. It wasn't a comet. It was a ship. A ship larger than any human city, dark and shaped like a giant crown. Its edges glowed with blue energy, like a living storm trapped inside metal. Governments activated emergency protocols. Fighter jets stood ready. Satellite defenses powered up. The world held its breath. Aisha watched the live feed with millions of others. "That's not science fiction," she whispered. "That's real." The ship moved slowly, yet it crossed the distance between Neptune and Earth within hours, as if space itself bent around it. People filled the streets in every country, staring at the sky as a long shadow passed over the planet. A shadow shaped like an empire's throne. As the ship entered Earth's atmosphere, everyone expected fear. Fire. Thunder. A sign of war. Instead, something shocking happened. The ship released thousands of tiny glowing particles that scattered across the sky like colorful snow. They created a hologram above the clouds, a symbol of a crown and two circles orbiting it. Then a message rang across every device on Earth. Phones, TVs, radios, even offline computers. The same message in a deep, commanding voice. Humans, prepare for the arrival of the Eternal Empire. The voice sounded dramatic. The tone was theatrical. It echoed like a stage performance, not a military threat. Aisha stared at the sky, speechless. Raphael whispered, "Why does it sound like a movie trailer?" Aisha didn't laugh, but she felt a smile forming. It really did sound overly dramatic. Almost funny. Yet millions of people around the world panicked. Some ran. Some cried. Some screamed. But a few, very few, reacted differently. Some laughed. Not because it was a joke. Not because it wasn't serious. But because humans, when faced with fear, sometimes react with unexpected humor. Aisha wasn't laughing yet, but she sensed something unusual about the Empire. Something strange. Something almost silly. If the Empire expected fear, they were about to learn something new about humans. Humans laugh in the face of the unknown. The Imperial ship hung above Earth like a dark moon, huge enough to block part of the sunlight. Cities around the world fell silent. Roads emptied. People stayed glued to their screens, waiting, afraid, curious. Inside the Global Contact Center, a new facility built within hours under emergency protocol, Dr. Aisha Malik stood with a group of scientists, linguists, and military officers. She felt a strange mix of fear and excitement in her chest. General Hawk, a tall man with a strict expression, walked toward the group. "Everyone stay calm," he ordered. "The Empire has not attacked. They only made an announcement." Rafael Ortiz leaned toward Aisha and whispered, "Yeah, an announcement that almost gave the whole world a heart attack." Aisha gave a small smile. "Let's wait and see." Suddenly, a loud hum echoed from the sky. The Imperial ship began to open. Not like a normal door, but like a giant flower made of metal, unfolding slowly with dramatic golden light shining from inside. Raphael blinked. "Why does it look like the opening scene of an award show?" Aisha couldn't deny it. The entrance looked unnecessarily flashy, almost theatrical. A beam of shimmering blue light shot down from the center of the ship. It touched the ground in the middle of an open field prepared for first contact. The humans waiting there stepped back. General Hawk spoke into his radio, "Team Alpha, stay sharp." The beam expanded, forming a glowing portal. Everyone held their breath as a large platform lowered from the ship. On it stood rows of alien soldiers. Their armor was shiny, polished to perfection. Their capes fluttered even though there was no wind. Their helmets had tall decorative horns that looked more stylish than practical. Aisha stared. Raphael stared. Everyone stared. "Are they posing?" Raphael whispered. Yes, they were. Every soldier stood in a dramatic stance, chests out, spears pointed upward. The formation looked less like a military lineup and more like a fashion show. Aisha tried not to laugh. Not because aliens were funny, but because the Empire's sense of presentation was surprisingly intense. The leader of the soldiers stepped forward. His armor had glowing patterns and his voice boomed across the field. "Behold, the Legion of Honor arrives before your humble world." The humans flinched from the volume. Raphael covered his ears. "Why are they shouting? We're standing right here." Another soldier stepped forward holding a huge trumpet-like device. He blew into it and a booming fanfare filled the air, deep, dramatic, and completely unnecessary. Aisha blinked twice. "This is not what I expected." General Hawk muttered, "We expected warships, not a theater show." The soldiers spread apart, forming a path made of glowing energy tiles. The light pulsed rhythmically, blue, gold, blue, gold. Raphael whispered, "They even installed stage lights." Aisha covered her mouth to hide her smile. She knew laughing at aliens might be dangerous, but the Empire's grand arrival looked like something straight out of an over-the-top sci-fi movie. Finally, the main figure appeared. A tall alien, almost 7 feet, wearing heavy golden armor with a long cape that sparkled as if stars were sewn into it. His steps were slow and exaggerated, like each movement was part of a royal performance. Aisha's eyes widened. "Is that Their emperor? Raphael squinted. Or maybe their lead actor? The emperor raised one hand dramatically. Instantly, every soldier dropped to one knee. A bright spotlight, where did that even come from? Shone directly onto him. The emperor spoke with a deep, theatrical voice. Humans of Earth, your time of obscurity has ended. The eternal empire honors you with its presence. Raphael coughed to hide his laugh. He talks like he's narrating a documentary. General Hawk shot him a warning look. Aisha, trying to stay respectful, nodded slowly. We welcome you, Emperor. We hope this visit brings peace. The Emperor tilted his head slightly as if analyzing her tone. His cape swished elegantly behind him even though there was no wind at all. Then he spoke again louder. We have traveled across galaxies to judge your worth. Now behold the might and majesty of the Empire. He stretched both arms outward dramatically. Instantly, fireworks, actual fireworks, exploded in the sky behind the ship. Raphael stared in disbelief. Are you kidding me? Fireworks. Even General Hawk looked confused. Are they celebrating? Or trying to scare us? Aisha wasn't sure. Maybe it's their traditional way of making an entrance. The Emperor seemed proud of the reaction he expected to get. He waited for silence, expecting awe or fear. Instead there was confusion. And a few chuckles. One of the younger scientists whispered to his friend, "This is like watching an alien version of WrestleMania." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. He heard that. But before he could say anything, another Imperial official stepped forward and activated a floating hologram. It showed the Empire's star systems, military strengths, past victories, and scenes of dramatic battles. But the battles were edited in a very strange way. The music was heroic, too heroic. The explosions were exaggerated. Some scenes looked like a highlight reel made by a fanboy. Raphael shook his head. This looks like someone's YouTube montage. Aisha tried her best to stay neutral, but even she could not ignore how theatrical everything looked. The Empire clearly wanted to intimidate humans with the most dramatic show possible. But humans had seen thousands of movies, memes, and special effects. It took more than a glowing cape and fireworks to scare them. The Emperor finished his speech. Prepare yourselves, humans. For the Empire shall now decide your fate. He paused, waiting for gasps, screams, or at least trembling. Instead, the field was quiet. Too quiet. Raphael finally whispered, "Do we clap? Or what?" Aisha covered her face with both hands to hide her laughter. Not because the situation wasn't serious, but because humans, when overwhelmed, sometimes reacted with humor. The Emperor sensed something was wrong. Humans were not behaving the way most species behaved in front of the Empire. They were not terrified. They were not kneeling. They were not trembling. Some of them were smiling. Aisha looked at Raphael and whispered, "They prepared for fear. Not for us." And for the first time, a crack appeared in the Empire's confidence. Earth was not afraid. Earth was confused. And some humans were already laughing inside. The Empire had no idea what kind of species they were dealing with. The Emperor stood proudly at the center of the glowing path, his golden armor shining so brightly that the humans had to squint. He expected silence, awe, maybe even worship. This was how alien worlds usually reacted to him. But Earth was different. The humans simply stared at him, curious, confused, and oddly unimpressed. Aisha Malik stood in the front row of the contact team. Rafael Ortiz stood beside her, folding his arms, watching the Emperor with the same expression he used when judging a bad movie. The Emperor raised his chin higher. "Behold your ruler," he declared. No one moved. He frowned. Maybe humans were slow? Maybe they needed more time to understand his greatness? He took a step forward. His heavy boots made a loud metallic clang. He paused and waited for a reaction. Nothing. Another step. Clang. Nothing again. Raphael whispered, "Why does he walk like a WWE wrestler entering the ring?" Aisha elbowed him lightly. "Stop. Please. You'll make me laugh too." But she was already struggling. The Emperor's exaggerated movements were simply too dramatic. The Emperor spread his arms wide. "I am Emperor Zalvor, chosen by the stars, conqueror of 12 galaxies, breaker of 1,000 worlds." He paused for effect. One of the human technicians whispered to another, 12 galaxies? Bro, that's like saying you beat all levels of a game on easy mode." The Emperor heard the whisper, and his eye twitched. He cleared his throat loudly, trying again. "Fear me, humans, for I bring judgment upon your young and fragile species." He expected screams. He expected panic. He expected the humans to fall to their knees. Instead, a small group of soldiers at the back exchanged confused glances. One raised an eyebrow. Another stifled a laugh. The Emperor raised his voice again. You stand before greatness. Aisha finally stepped forward, keeping her voice polite. Your Majesty, we do not mean disrespect. But humans, we don't really react to drama the same way other species might. Drama? The Emperor repeated, offended. This is not drama. This is power. Aisha nodded gently. Yes, but your presentation is very similar to what we see in movies. Fiction. Entertainment. Raphael added, people on Earth act like this when they're trying to look cool. The Emperor slowly turned his head toward Raphael. Trying? He repeated. Raphael nodded. Trying. The Emperor stiffened. His cape fluttered more dramatically, glowing at the edges. My cape alone is a symbol of terror across 3 galaxies. It sparkles, Raphael said. It glitters, added another scientist. It looks like something from a costume shop, someone whispered. The Emperor inhaled sharply, shocked at how casual these humans were. He took one long step forward, stopping only inches from Aisha. He stared down at her, expecting her to tremble. She didn't. He leaned closer. Do you not fear me, human? Aisha met his gaze calmly. I study cosmic events. I fear things that can actually kill me. Behind her, Raphael added, and we've seen scarier villains on Netflix. Aisha shot him a warning look, but it was too late. A few soldiers snorted. One laughed openly. The Emperor whirled around, his cape spinning like a gold storm. He pointed at the humans accusingly. You mock the Empire? Aisha raised her hands gently. No. We're just confused. Confused? The Emperor echoed. Yes, she said. Your arrival was very loud. The fireworks, the fanfare, the posing. Humans don't usually use these things in serious diplomatic meetings. The Emperor blinked. His confidence cracked for a moment. In the Empire, theatrical intimidation was normal. It worked on every species they had encountered. No one had ever laughed. He pointed to the sky. Instantly, holograms appeared, massive images of star systems the Empire had conquered. Planets burning. Armies marching. Fleets covering the void of space. The Emperor announced proudly. These are the worlds that fell before my might. Raphael leaned toward Aisha. Why does it look like a movie trailer intro? Aisha couldn't help it. She smiled. The Emperor noticed and gasped. He tried something bigger. With a dramatic sweep of his hand, the hologram shifted to show Zalvor standing atop a defeated alien king. The music behind the hologram was heroic, too heroic, like an action theme. Raphael whispered, did he make his own highlight reel? Aisha covered her mouth to hide a laugh. The Emperor stomped the ground. This is the proof of my power. How dare you laugh? Aisha inhaled deeply and tried to explain, Your Majesty, humans don't laugh because we disrespect you. We laugh because it's how we deal with fear, confusion, and stress. And bad special effects, Raphael added. Aisha glared at him. Stop. The Emperor shook his head, anger rising. No species has ever laughed at me. They all trembled. That's the problem, Aisha replied gently. We're not like other species. The Emperor didn't know how to respond. For the first time in his life, he felt something new during a first contact event. Embarrassment. He tried one last time to regain control. He lifted his hand dramatically and thunder roared across the sky. Dark clouds formed above the ship. Lightning flashed. He shouted, If you do not fear me, then I shall show you true terror. A thunderbolt cracked behind him. Raphael clapped slowly. Nice visual effects. Someone behind him muttered, 10 out of 10 for the lighting. A few people chuckled, unable to stop themselves. The Emperor stared at them in disbelief. The humans were laughing at him. Laughing. At him, Zalvor, fear of the cosmos. He lowered his hand slowly. The thunder faded. The dramatic lighting dimmed. For the first time in his rulership he felt unsure. He looked at Aisha, small, human, calm. How? He whispered. How do you face danger without fear? Aisha answered softly. Because humans learned long ago that fear doesn't help us survive. But sometimes, laughter does. The Emperor stared at her. This was new. This was strange. This was unsettling. The Eternal Empire had conquered countless civilizations through fear. But humanity was something the Empire had never seen before. A species that met terror. With a smile. For several long seconds the field remained silent. Not because humans were afraid, but because they were trying very hard not to laugh. The emperor, tall and glowing in his golden armor, expected silence of fear. Instead, he received silence of suppressed giggles. Dr. Aisha Malik stood straight, doing her best to hold her expression. She understood the seriousness of the situation. First contact could decide the future of Earth. One wrong reaction could start a war. But the Empire's grand, dramatic performance made things extremely difficult. Behind her, Rafael Ortiz muttered, "I swear if his cape sparkles one more time I'm going to lose it." Aisha elbowed him, whispering, "Please stop. We need to stay professional." But then, the universe itself betrayed her. A loud, high-pitched sound echoed across the field. Whoosh! A huge hologram appeared above the Emperor, showing scenes from past conquests. The humans gasped, not in fear, but in disbelief, because the hologram looked wrong. The resolution was too smooth. The contrast was too bright. The explosions looked like old video game graphics. And the Imperial warriors moved in exaggerated slow motion. Raphael squinted. "Is that CGI?" A low chuckle escaped a soldier. Another scientist clapped his hand over his mouth. Even General Hawk's lips twitched. The Emperor stepped forward dramatically, cape swirling. These are the mighty victories of the Empire. Each battle, a masterpiece of destruction. The hologram shifted to another scene. An alien beast roaring, then slipping on its own slime and falling face first. The dramatic soundtrack continued anyway. A soldier whispered, "Did they keep that scene on purpose?" Aisha closed her eyes. She could feel a wave of laughter building behind her. She whispered, "No one laugh. Please." But humans are humans. The more you try not to laugh, the funnier everything becomes. The Emperor raised his arms again, expecting awe. "Behold our disciplined warriors." Another hologram appeared showing the Imperial army marching in perfect formation. But right in the middle of the march, one soldier tripped. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't serious. It was a simple fall. A quiet snort escaped someone. Then another. And suddenly, PFFFFFT, ha 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 ha. 3 humans burst into laughter before they could stop themselves. The Emperor froze. His soldiers froze. Even the hologram paused as if offended. The Emperor slowly turned to Aisha. "They laugh at the Empire?" Aisha stepped forward, raising her hands. "I'm sorry, Your Majesty. Humans react to stress with humor sometimes. They don't mean disrespect." But Raphael, failing to control himself, added, "Also, your hologram editing is something." A young scientist behind them whispered loudly, "This looks like a TikTok fan edit." The Emperor's eye twitched violently. He tried to salvage the situation. With a dramatic snap of his fingers, the holograms vanished. Lightning flashed behind him. The sky turned dark. His cape glowed brighter as if it had its own spotlight. He thundered, "Enough! You shall fear the Empire." A huge blast of thunder shook the ground. But the effect was ruined by a tiny pop from the Emperor's shoulder armor, like a loose button snapping off. The armor piece bounced twice, rolled in a circle, then stopped at Raphael's boot. Raphael picked it up, inspected it, and said, "Do you want this back?" A burst of laughter erupted from the human crowd. One soldier laughed so hard he had to bend down. Another slapped his knee. A third wiped tears from his eyes. The Emperor stared, completely stunned. No one had ever reacted like this to him. No species had ever shown such confidence or madness. He stomped forward. "Humans, control yourselves." But his loud voice only made things worse. General Hawk coughed loudly, trying to maintain discipline. "Everyone keep it together. This is an alien emperor." That only made the laughter more chaotic. One of the human scientists gasped between laughs. I'm trying. But this is too much." Aisha stepped forward quickly, trying to regain control. "Your Majesty, please understand. We are not mocking your power." "Then why do you laugh?" The Emperor roared. Aisha took a breath. She had to explain humanity in the simplest way possible. "Humans laugh when we are scared, confused, overwhelmed, or stressed," she said softly. "It's a natural reaction." Raphael added, wiping his eyes. "And sometimes, we laugh when things are too dramatic." The Emperor blinked. "Dramatic?" Raphael nodded. "Very dramatic." The Emperor looked down at himself. The sparkling cape, the glowing armor, the smoke drifting around his boots, the thunderclouds above. He whispered, "This is intimidation." Aisha replied gently, "For humans, it feels more like a performance." The Emperor stood silently, confused. His entire strategy was built on fear. But humans saw something entirely different. They saw a show. They saw a character. They saw a theatrical alien who looked like he walked straight out of a fantasy action movie. One human soldier whispered to his friend, "I like this guy. He's like a space villain with style." Another whispered, "If he starts monologuing, I'm done." The Emperor clenched his fists, but not with anger, with uncertainty. This was the first time in his history that an entire species reacted to him not with terror, but with laughter. He slowly stepped back, cape swishing. The laughter finally died down. Aisha bowed her head slightly. "We apologize for our reaction, Your Majesty. We truly do." The Emperor stared at her, then at the humans, then at the sky. Finally, he spoke in a low voice. "Your species is unlike any I have faced." Aisha nodded. "Yes, very different." The Emperor looked at Raphael. "Why do your people laugh at danger?" Raphael shrugged. "Because if we don't laugh, we panic. And laughter is easier." The Emperor looked shaken. Human reactions made no sense. Human emotions were chaotic. Human courage was unpredictable. And above all, fear did not work on them. Earth had just revealed its hidden superpower, humor in the face of danger. The Emperor stepped back slowly, whispering to himself, "This changes everything." The air in the field finally settled. The laughter faded, but the damage was done. The Emperor of the Eternal Empire stood completely still, staring at the humans with a mixture of confusion, frustration, and something he had never felt before: doubt. Around him, the Imperial soldiers were equally stunned. They looked at the humans like they were dangerous animals doing unpredictable tricks. Dr. Aisha Malik stepped forward carefully. "Your Majesty," she said in a gentle voice, "please let us explain. Humans don't mean to insult you. We simply react differently." The Emperor tilted his head. "Differently? You laugh in moments meant to inspire terror. You laugh during sacred imperial rituals. You laugh at everything." Raphael muttered, "We're emotionally flexible." Aisha shot him a look. Raphael shrugged. The Emperor pointed dramatically at the crowd. "What kind of species laughs at its conqueror?" Aisha answered softly, "A species that refuses to give fear too much power." The Emperor blinked slowly. "Fear is the foundation of control. Without it, how do your leaders enforce obedience?" Raphael responded before Aisha could stop him. "We don't. Not like that." The Emperor narrowed his eyes. "No fear? No obedience? Then how does your society not collapse?" Aisha stepped in. "It's complicated. Humans follow rules because we agree to them, not because we're terrified into them. And when things get dangerous, yes, sometimes we laugh." The Emperor looked like someone had just told him water could burn. He paced back and forth, cape swishing behind him like a frustrated storm cloud. Ridiculous. Illogical. Irrational. He turned sharply to Aisha. "Explain laughter. Explain humor." Aisha took a breath and tried. "It is a release, a coping method. When humans face danger, confusion, or even sorrow, laughter keeps us calm. It helps us survive." The Emperor frowned deeply. "Laughter as survival?" Raphael nodded. "Pretty much." A young scientist behind them added, "We have comedy shows, prank videos, sitcoms, memes." "Memes?" The Emperor repeated the word as if it were a spell. Raphael whispered, "Oh boy." Aisha cleared her throat. "Yes, memes. Short, humorous messages shared across our networks." The Emperor's eyes widened. "You share humor. You spread it. You encourage it." Aisha nodded again. The Emperor placed a hand dramatically on his forehead as if overwhelmed. "In the Empire, humor is forbidden. Laughter is considered weakness. Emotional control is required in all social ranks." Aisha tilted her head. "So your people have never laughed?" The Emperor hesitated. "Children sometimes, before they are trained." Raphael winced. "That explains a lot." The Emperor glared at him. Aisha kept her voice calm. "Maybe this is why there's confusion. We interpret your dramatic actions differently." "Dramatic?" the Emperor snapped. "This is ceremony, ancient tradition. The entrance of an emperor." Raphael whispered to a soldier, "Looks like cosplay." Aisha elbowed him again. The Emperor massaged his temple with both hands. "Your species feels wrong. Everything you do defies logic." Aisha smiled gently. "That's humanity." He looked at her strangely. Not with anger. Not with superiority. But with curiosity. "The tests begin." The Emperor raised one finger. "Very well. If you claim your laughter is not rebellion, then I shall test you. He motioned to his guards. They activated floating screens around the humans. Each screen displayed an image meant to frighten. A monstrous alien with rows of teeth. A black hole devouring a moon. A giant war machine. Imperial soldiers firing plasma cannons. The Emperor crossed his arms. Observe. You will tremble. The humans looked. One scientist said, nice animation. Another said, that war machine looks like a blender. A soldier said, I've seen bigger teeth on a shark. The Emperor's jaw dropped. Raphael leaned in and whispered, one more test and he's going to rage quit first contact. Aisha stepped forward again. Your Majesty, this isn't working because we're used to intense imagery. Our entertainment shows much scarier things. The Emperor stared. Entertainment shows fear? Yes, Aisha said. We call them horror movies. The Emperor whispered, horrified. You choose to be terrified, for fun? Raphael nodded. Every weekend. The Emperor stumbled back as if the ground had betrayed him, showing humanity's culture. Aisha took a risk. Your Majesty, may we show you something from our culture? The Emperor narrowed his eyes. Show me. Aisha signaled Raphael. He pulled out a small projector and tapped a few keys. Images appeared in the air. A group of humans dancing wildly at a wedding. Friends laughing in a living room. Comedians performing stand-up. Clowns making children giggle. Firefighters saving a kitten. Doctors comforting patients. Families sharing food. Strangers helping each other during disasters. The Emperor watched silently. He saw no fear. No trembling. No strict obedience. Instead, he saw chaos, passion, noise, love, and humor all mixed together. A species that lived loudly and emotionally without shame. He whispered, you are strange. You show emotion freely. You behave unpredictably. You do not fear judgment. Aisha said softly, yes, humans are emotional. And emotions make us strong. The Emperor turned away, pacing again. No, this cannot be true. Power comes from discipline, not emotions. Aisha replied, why not both? The Emperor froze. The question struck him like lightning. In his empire there was only one truth. Fear controls. Emotion weakens. Obedience preserves order. But humans shattered that rule just by existing. A crack in the empire's core. He turned back to Aisha. Human, your species breaks every rule of subjugation I have ever known. Aisha nodded. We're difficult to control. We always have been. Raphael added proudly. It's our brand. The Emperor sighed, cape lowering slightly. I do not understand you. Aisha smiled. That's okay. Understanding takes time. The Emperor looked at her again. Not with anger, not with fear. But with something new. Respect. Or maybe, curiosity. He spoke quietly. Show me more of this humor. Show me what makes humans laugh. The moment stunned everyone. The Emperor of the Eternal Empire, the conqueror of worlds, wanted to understand laughter. Human laughter. Aisha nodded slowly. Then, welcome to human culture, Your Majesty. And the Emperor whispered, perhaps the Empire must learn this power. The first step toward a new relationship had begun. Not with force, not with fear, but with cultural confusion and curiosity. The Emperor sat on his floating throne, staring at the humans with deep thought. No one spoke. Not the Imperial guards. Not the scientists. Not even Raphael. The silence felt heavy, but not dangerous. For the first time, the Emperor wasn't trying to look powerful. He looked thoughtful. Aisha watched him carefully. She had never imagined that a simple misunderstanding, laughter, could shake an entire interstellar empire. Finally he spoke. Humanity. Your culture is disruptive. Raphael whispered to his team. That's the nicest thing he said all day. The Emperor ignored him and continued. You are emotional, disorganized, unpredictable, and incapable of proper fear. Yet, you are not weak. Your lack of fear did not lead to chaos. It led to strength. Aisha bowed her head politely. Thank you, Your Majesty. We appreciate your effort to understand. The Emperor looked at her with a mix of confusion and curiosity. Do you understand what this means for the Empire? If one species can survive without fear as its guiding force, then perhaps fear is not the only method of order. Aisha carefully replied. There are many ways to build a society. Fear is one, but so is trust. So is cooperation. So is hope. The Emperor inhaled slowly. Hope. He hadn't heard that word in decades. The council arrives. A loud hum filled the air as 3 massive golden shuttles landed around the field. Aisha's team reacted immediately. Raphael whispered, "That looks important. And expensive." The Emperor stood straighter. "My high command arrives. They demand answers." The shuttles opened and out stepped 6 alien leaders, all wearing heavy silver armor and long sharp crests on their helmets. Their presence was intense like walking storm clouds. The High Commander, a tall alien with deep red armor, marched toward the Emperor. "Your Majesty, we received reports of laughter at your presence." The Emperor lifted his chin proudly. "It is true." The High Commander gasped. "An insult, a dishonor. We should crush their world immediately." "Silence," the Emperor commanded. The soldiers froze instantly. The Emperor gestured toward the humans. "These humans are not rebels. They are different." The High Commander's eyes narrowed. "They laughed at fear. At you." The Emperor nodded slowly. "Yes, that is why we must learn from them." The High Commander's voice rose sharply. "Learn? From a primitive species?" The Emperor replied calmly. "The Empire has used fear for thousands of years. It brought control but not peace, stability but not growth. We have conquered many, but we have evolved little." Aisha listened silently. Every word mattered. The Emperor looked at his council. "Humans showed me something today. That emotion is not weakness. That laughter can be strength. That societies can work without chains." The High Commander stepped back, stunned. "Do you suggest we change the Empire, because these creatures laugh?" The Emperor answered, "Because their laughter survived what fear destroyed in us. A human test, laughter in the Empire." Aisha raised her hand politely. "Your Majesty, would you like to see how humor can unite rather than divide?" The Emperor nodded. "Show us." Raphael grinned. "Oh, I have something perfect." He opened his tablet and played a short video on the hollow screen. A classic human comedy clip. A man slipping on a banana peel. Simple. Silly. Universal. The humans laughed immediately. The aliens stared. Then one of the younger Imperial guards tilted his head. His lips twitched. His shoulders shook. And suddenly, itch. He accidentally snorted. Everyone turned to stare at him. His face turned bright blue with embarrassment. The Emperor looked shocked. "You laughed?" The guard bowed low. Forgive me, Your Majesty. I do not know what came over me." But the Emperor did not punish him. Instead, he smiled. A tiny smile. Barely visible. But real. Aisha gasped softly. Raphael whispered. "He smiled. That's going in the history books." The Emperor touched his face, confused. "This feeling, it is light. Strange. Not unpleasant." Aisha nodded. "That is laughter's power. It opens hearts, lowers tension, builds connection." The Emperor whispered. "Connection." He looked around at his council. Perhaps the Empire has forgotten this. The Empire's dilemma. The High Commander approached the Emperor again. "Your Majesty, if we adopt this human philosophy, the Empire will change. Soldiers will question orders. Citizens will demand freedom." The Emperor considered this. Then slowly he replied, "Maybe freedom is not the enemy we thought it was." The council whispered sharply among themselves. This was political shock of the highest level. Aisha kept her voice calm and diplomatic. "Your Majesty, it doesn't need to happen all at once. You can start small. Teach leaders compassion. Allow controlled emotional expression. Let children keep their laughter." The Emperor's eyes widened. Children, laughing freely? He seemed to imagine it for the first time. His voice softened. "My people have forgotten joy." Aisha smiled gently. "We can help you rediscover it." A moment of trust. The Emperor stepped toward Aisha. For the first time he lowered his guard. Literally and symbolically. He removed his golden helmet. This act stunned even his own council. His face, sharp, angular, proud, was suddenly vulnerable. He looked directly into Aisha's eyes. "Human ambassador, you have shown the Empire a new path today." Aisha bowed respectfully. "We're honored to help." The Emperor extended his hand. A gesture never before offered to another species. Aisha shook it. Raphael whispered loudly. "Diplomacy level 100. The Emperor ignored him, still focused on Aisha. "Tomorrow we will begin discussions. Not of conquest, but of cooperation." The council gasped. Raphael threw both hands in the air. "We did it. Humanity, baby." Aisha laughed softly but stayed composed. The Emperor nodded once. "Prepare your people. The Empire will return tomorrow with proposals. A flash of golden light surrounded him as his throne lifted into the ship. Before leaving he said one last thing, quiet, almost shy. Human laughter is powerful. I want to understand more. And then he disappeared into the sky. The humans celebrate. As the shuttles departed, Raphael shouted, "We got an empire to reconsider its entire philosophy in one afternoon. That's record time." Aisha looked at the sky thoughtfully. "We didn't win anything yet," she said softly. "But for the first time, the empire is listening." One of the scientists smiled. "So tomorrow is the beginning?" Aisha nodded. "No. Today was the beginning. Tomorrow, we build the future." Morning sunlight spread across the human base, warm and calm, but nobody felt calm inside. Today was the day the Eternal Empire would return. Not for war. Not for domination. But for discussion. Aisha stood in the center field, watching her team prepare the welcome area. Raphael was pacing in circles, waving a tablet. "This is huge. This is insane. This is historical. Humans just made the scariest empire in the galaxy rethink its entire personality." Aisha chuckled. "Let's not celebrate too early." Scientists arranged chairs, screens, and communication devices. Soldiers stood ready, not with weapons raised, but simply watching the sky. Suddenly the air began to hum. Golden light burst across the clouds. The Emperor had returned. But this time, he was not alone. Thousands of small ships followed. Not warships, not destroyers, but civilian carriers filled with Imperial citizens. Raphael's eyes widened. "Oh, Aisha? Did he bring the whole empire to our meeting?" Aisha frowned softly. "No. Look closer." As the ships landed, ramps opened. And out came beings the humans had never seen. Children with bright eyes. Families holding hands. Traders. Teachers. Artists. Workers. Aliens who had lived their whole lives under strict, emotionless rule. Now they looked curious, nervous, but free. Raphael whispered, "This is not a meeting. This is a movement." The Emperor's new declaration. The Emperor's throne descended slowly. He wore less armor today. No dramatic cape. No glowing spear. He looked normal. Almost peaceful. His council followed behind him, still tense, still confused, but noticeably less aggressive. The Emperor raised his hand. "Humans, today the Empire begins a new chapter." The citizens behind him listened silently. He continued, "Yesterday I learned that fear is not the only way to lead. Today I wish to learn how to rule with strength and emotion. With order and freedom." Raphael whispered to Aisha, "He's giving us a TED Talk." The Emperor glanced at him. For a moment, Aisha feared he might be offended. But instead, he smirked. Just a little. He had changed. First contact with the Empire's people. A group of Imperial children stepped forward cautiously. Aisha knelt down to appear less intimidating. One child with silver markings on his skin asked shyly, "Are humans really not afraid of anything?" Aisha smiled gently. "Oh, we're afraid of many things. We just don't let fear control us." The child blinked. "So, you laugh?" Aisha nodded. "Yes, very often." Another child raised her hand. "Can you teach us?" Aisha's heart softened. "Yes, I can." And for the first time in generations, Imperial children learned how to laugh freely. Not forced, not punished, not hidden. Real laughter. Soft at first, then louder, brighter. It echoed across the entire field. Even human soldiers smiled. Raphael wiped a fake tear. "I'm not crying. My allergies are crying." Aisha rolled her eyes. The Emperor's private question. Later, the Emperor approached Aisha privately. He looked serious but not angry. "Human ambassador, I must ask you something personal." Aisha nodded. "Of course." He lowered his voice. "Do you believe a ruler like me can change?" Aisha didn't hesitate. "Yes, because you already have." The Emperor looked away, conflicted. "I have led with fear my whole life. I do not know how to lead any other way." Aisha replied softly, "You don't need to change everything today. Start small. Let people speak. Let them feel. Let them dream." The Emperor repeated the last word slowly. "Dream?" He looked at his citizens who were laughing and talking with humans. "We banned dreams. We banned art. We banned celebration. Now I see how empty our world became." He glanced back at Aisha. "Will you help us rebuild?" Aisha smiled warmly. "Humanity will stand with you. A turning point in history. The humans and aliens sat in a circle for the first official meeting. No weapons, no threats, just conversation. The Emperor announced new plans. Emotional education, permission for humor and art, new rights for imperial citizens, a partnership with humanity, exploration missions for cultural exchange. The council members shifted uncomfortably but accepted it. Aisha spoke next. Humanity also has responsibilities. We will share our science, our medicine, our culture, and our values. With respect, Raphael added. And memes? Don't forget the memes. The Emperor looked confused. What is a meme again? Aisha answered calmly. A tiny piece of human psychology that spreads faster than logic. The Emperor whispered. Terrifying, but useful. A gift from the Emperor. Before leaving, the Emperor handed Aisha a small crystalline cube. This contains the first draft of a new imperial charter, he said. Not based on fear, but on balance. Aisha accepted the cube with deep respect. This is history, Your Majesty. The Emperor nodded once. No. This is the future. Farewell for now. As the imperial ships began to rise, children waved from the windows. The Emperor looked down at the humans one last time. He placed his hand over his heart, a gesture of respect in his culture. Aisha returned it. The Emperor's voice echoed across the field. Humanity, one day laughter will reshape the stars. The ships lifted into the sky, glowing softly. Aisha stood quietly watching them disappear. Raphael walked up beside her. So, we just turned an empire into a comedy club? Aisha smiled. No. We helped an empire find its heart again. The story's end, or beginning. Back at the base, scientists celebrated. Soldiers relaxed. Everyone talked excitedly about the events. Humanity had not won a war. Humanity had won something else. Understanding. Friendship. A chance to reshape the galaxy. Aisha sat down at her desk and opened her mission log. She typed. The Eternal Empire has chosen a new path. Not of fear but of hope. Not of silence but of laughter. Today humanity didn't just survive. We changed the stars. She closed the log and whispered. On to the next chapter. And somewhere far across space, the Emperor smiled. Truly smiled. For the first time in his life.